Okay. Hello. Hi there, Michelle.
Hold on, I can't. Hello?
Hi, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Can't hear. I can't hear anything.
Let's see. Can't hear, still can't hear me? Hello?
Oh, got it.
Okay, you can hear me now?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Sorry, I had to do some rearranging on my computer.
Hey, I know what you mean. This technology thing, it's simple, but it's hard.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm gonna tell you what, in the interest of time, I've got a couple other people that will jump, or that should be jumping on, but I got the two most important people here. So I
Okay.
appreciate you for taking the time to listen and to get on this call. Um, I'm gonna tell you a little bit about my organization and me, and then I'm gonna have you tell yourself a little bit about you. Um, again, my name's Brian Harris. I've lived in Henderson actually for almost 20 years in the Green Valley area. So obviously your race is important to me. Uh, in the past, my group, I have a group called the Independent Black Voters on Facebook. It was created, it's simply a Facebook group that was created to discuss issues that are prevalent to the Black community. Many times during these elections, we hear a lot of promises and we hear people who tell us, but they don't listen to what's going on. And many times the issues that are prevalent in the Black community are the same issues in all communities. So this isn't just about one group. It's really about what's going on in America as a whole. We have a problem, obviously. Unfortunately, we got the far left, we got the far right, and it seems like everybody in the middle is kind of left twisting in the wind, and their issues are not discussed many times. And the whole goal of this group is to force more of a discussion that would be, I think, more prevalent to the average Joe person, no matter what color, and to really identify who and what where. So we created this group. We have over 2,500 people and growing. Our specific issue is discuss things around social justice and issues pertaining to what I call the equality of opportunity, because obviously we've seen even bigger displacement of wealth in America as a whole. And when you look at, and you if you peel down the onion, obviously we're in Henderson, which is a fairly stable, good community. But we also need to look at what's happening today as it pertains to inflation and what we call affordable housing, etc. So these are the issues we talk about, and we want to know what our candidates think. This is not about a canned answer. Please don't give us a canned answer, because that's not what we're looking for. So with that done, can you, Michelle, give us just a little overview of who you are, what you do, and why you are running for the mayor of Henderson?
Sure. So I am a native of Henderson, lived here my whole life, except for about a 6-year period when my husband was in the military. He served in the Army. And my entire career was with the city of Henderson. I spent 25 years in various departments, but the longest period of time that I spent was in redevelopment. So that served our underserved areas in the city, our older areas, the more mature areas, and the areas that had sufferred from lack of investment and things like that. The last 9 years I was there, I was the manager of the redevelopment manager of the redevelopment department. And so Water Street District was my project. Henderson, I brought Henderson Hospital to Henderson, Union Village, which surrounds Henderson Hospital, the Cadence project. All of those were redevelopment projects. And after retiring from the city, 6 years ago, I opened my own business and began working on the other side of the table as a consultant. So I help developers through the escrow process. I help them make sure that they comply with the agreements they have with the city and make sure that they're doing what they promised to do for the community that they're in. I ran for office in 2019. I have a very unique background from both sides of the table. I could see from the private side of working how city decisions impacted people's ability to operate their business or construct a project or whatever it was that they were doing. And through the 25 years I was at the city, I saw how different decisions made at council levels impacted not only the citizens, but the workers in Henderson. And so I brought a very unique perspective. Plus, being a native, I also have many, many friends and family who live here who have given me, many, many, many years of input on what they like to see in the city. And so ran for office in 2019 and was elected and have been serving ever since.
Okay, great. Now, right now, you said, what business do you have? Can you repeat that again?
It's a consulting business. It's just Michelle Romero Consulting. I'm the business.
Okay, and your focus in your consulting is?
I have one client right now on purpose. I didn't want more than that because I want my main focus to be on my council duties. And I actually work with the project that is associated with Henderson Hospital. So that whole area around Henderson Hospital, I help them with their escrows. I help them. They have numerous agreements with the city because they're in a redevelopment area. And there are benchmarks that they have to meet in order to qualify for the investments that they were promised by the city. And so I make sure that they stay on track to hit those benchmarks and that they complete all the things that they were required to complete in order to request the reimbursements for a portion of the project costs.
Okay, great. And it's funny, redevelopment, that's good because obviously you're looking at some things that are happening in Henderson. And that'll bring me some of the issues that we talk about here. I told you the two issues we look at are our social justice issues and issues pertaining to the equality of opportunity. So we're going to start with the second one first, this time, equality of opportunity. Henderson's been very blessed with growth. Again, they're the developers, they chomp at the bit. They love to be here in Henderson. We've seen growth. We've seen, I believe the average mean income, and I could be off, is roughly about 75,000, which is phenomenal for a city. The only issue when you look at that from a housing perspective and is the opportunity for affordable housing for everyone, because even if you have an average mean of 74,000 right now, the average mean,
Can't qualify for a house.
yeah, you can't buy a house because I think the average mean probably in Henderson is probably well over $400,000 to $500,000. What do you think about where we are there as far as really not just the Black community, which is probably 6 to 8%, but even as a community as whole? What do you think? Where are we headed? And what do you think about how we can still have affordable housing and not have a city just for the rich and the rich and the renter?
It's a big problem, and it's not a problem that's only facing Henderson. It's facing almost every city, every major city in the United States. And so there's a lot of talk about how can we fix this? What can we do? And what we have been doing already, and I'll address what we have been doing already first, and then talk about what we're trying to do. What we have done already is partnered with some builders. Most of them are multifamily builders, but we're looking for people who would be interested in doing it for single family homes as well. We have some money that that we get as a grant from the federal government. Some of it's grant from the federal government, some of it comes from other sources. But we have a pool of money that we are able to put into various issues surrounding housing affordability. And what we've chosen to do with some of that money is to partner with developers to have mixed income projects. Because what we don't want to have is a whole area of low income houses where, you know, it just feeds on itself and becomes a greater problem. So we have created mixed income projects where a certain percentage of the units are well below market. Like, for example, the one that I just heard recently, it's right off the 215, kind of between Valley Verde and Green Valley Parkway. All of the units are gorgeous. They're gorgeous units. You can't tell which one is low income, and you can't tell which one is market rate. The market rate units are somewhere around $1,200 a month, and the subsidized ones are at $600 a month. There's a huge difference for the same project, but nobody knows who the low income people are and who the regular people are. It's just all mixed together, and there's a waiting list a mile long. So we're working with,
obviously.
yes.
And here
there's
comes
a waiting list a mile long for every senior project, every government assistance, I can't think of the word right now. Sorry, it has been a very long day. I started at 7:30 this morning.
And here comes a thought that I'm going to throw out, because I asked this question, and every time I ask about affordable housing, everybody talks about poor. Right now, and that's what I'm saying. And they talk about affordable rentals. And one of the issues that, not just with you, but across the board with state assemblies, with federal, is the American dream did not become affordable rentals. We are in a problem right now where we don't have a plan for a person who considers themselves to be middle class, who considers themselves, they make as a 60 or 70,000. Let's look at the middle income here, and they're caught between the rock and the hard place of I'm not in a position to get, nor do I want to get assistance, but my housing at now close to $2,000 a month just to rent has put me in a position that the rentals are too high. I'm not in the position everybody talks about when they say affordable housing, because to me, affordable housing, I'm talking about middle class affordable housing.
You're so right.
Everybody likes to talk about the units because the money that we're getting from the government is a drop in the bucket. As an example, you said, when you build them, they fill up very fast, because obviously that's good for the people filled up, but it doesn't address the problem that we're really dealing with right now. And that is affordable housing for the middle class. And
you're 100% right.
And not affordable rentals for the middle class, huh?
That's actually what I'm talking about is it's not, it's difficult in Henderson because you're 100% right. For poor, we have very little in the way, we have very few people who qualify for that because of our median income and our various issues. Henderson is blessed, you're correct. But that doesn't mean we don't have people who can't afford housing. We have tons of people who can't afford housing. For example, I have two sons. First one is an orthopedic surgeon, but he was a resident. So clearly he wasn't making doctor money. He was a resident, but he was making very good money. Couldn't afford a house in Henderson, could not find one anywhere. My other son makes more than what you were referring to. And it just took him 8 months to find a house that he qualified for, which is ridiculous. So it's a problem that we're having. And we started off with the types of projects I just talked about, where it's a mixed kind of income, because at the same time, builders are facing rising costs in supplies, supply chain issues, which are all escalating the cost of them to actually build the houses. So it's kind of like a never-ending circle of problems that just keep multiplying and creating out. So the other thing we're looking at doing, Henderson has a public trust fund that is also another source of funding where we might be able to write down. We're looking into whether or not we can legally do this, and we've already formed the framework for it, and we've just got to figure out how it can work. But rather than targeting specific income levels, we're targeting affordability. And so looking at how can we bring the cost down for the builder so he doesn't transfer that cost to the buyer. And so that's one of the things that we're looking at. We're looking at requiring builders, and they're digging their heels in and fighting this every step of the way. But we're because it's such a problem, we're talking to them about the possibility of having to mandate mixed income to some extent, or at least a certain percentage, or having them pay into some type of fund where we can then do that exact same thing that I just talked about, get the price down of the houses so that more middle income people can afford the houses. We're always open to new ideas. We're always out looking for other communities that may have done something like that successfully. We're always looking to work with builders to make sure that we're getting the best product possible for the lowest cost possible. We're looking at a variety of housing types because not everybody wants a house anymore. So we're trying to find a multiple types of housing that fit each person's preference. So we're amping up townhomes, condos. We don't have a lot of those. There are a lot of people asking for them, and we don't have a lot of those. So we're trying to attract them. So it's kind of a multi-pronged approach to try to ease that problem that we have with that gap in the availability to house people.
Great. One of my friends, Rodney, has come on. I'll let him say hello here. Rodney, can you say hello? Michelle Romero is running for the mayor of Henderson.
Oh, he just dropped off.
He just dropped off. Okay, well, Michelle, I'm gonna make this statement. We'll come back to this because obviously I want to have some more constructive criticism. I hear a lot when people talk about what's going on, but they don't talk about the root cause. I'm an engineer by trade. And here's what I'm seeing, and it's going to take the state assembly to address this issue. It's going to take the locals, because the problem is right now the people who are making the decision are developers and investors. Across Nevada, 20% of all the homes that were purchased by investors. I'm a 60s baby. Back in the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, and even the 90s, it was kind of set up that that the single family home was hands off to investors. You might have had people who were mom and pops who were flipping homes. Well, the industry has gotten to the point where now corporations are looking at the kind of money they can make in the ownership of single family homes, and they realize it's a supply and demand thing. By turning around and controlling the supply, i.e. purchasing it, they can raise the rent, and they can control and drive up the pricing of housing so that it becomes unattainable. I challenge you, because I'm going to be talking to not you, but not only you, but the state assemblies, the people in the federal government, that it's time to make it unattractive for developers to basically take the single family home market. There are places, and we know this, in North Las Vegas, where investors bought the whole new subdivision. Yep. And then they held it until they got to the price they wanted. So this isn't about materials. It's about the fact that we have this wealth disparity, and people realize they can now control the actual single family homes and drive the price up. And so we need to address the real root cause of what is driving up prices, because in the same sense, that's one of the reasons that everything else is going up. So we could talk more about that, because I don't want to make this whole call about affordable housing, but I really want to talk to you about that, because I'm looking for people who will start speaking truth to power. Developers and investors cannot continue to control America and basically create a rental, a rental America, or what do they call them now? Tiny homes that are only affordable for the average person. That's ridiculous. And we have to get the dialogue about what's really going on and force change there. So we'll talk more about that. I appreciate you being on this. I want to switch gears for a second, and talk about even the growth opportunity. Um, African Americans are 6 to 8% of the populace in Henderson, and we're roughly about 10 to 11% in the state. We have been left out of the opportunities of this growth, from the development, from public works to even the stadium. Not only was it the stadium, but they built in Henderson the main campus for the Raiders. But when you look at the involvement in the construction area, both from the ownership, from the companies to the people, we are not seeing opportunity. And obviously part of it is training, part of it is opportunity, but part of it is systemic racism, in the sense that systemic racism is designed around the good old boy system. These people have the ins and outs. They're on city council, they're on the planning committee, they work with their friends work with people who are comfortable than them. And the truth of the matter is, you will not get fair and equal opportunity until the government makes it a priority that we smash the good old boy system and we bring in a system that will see that there is more opportunity, I say equity of opportunity for all, both the Hispanic community, the Black community, all communities that are pretty much underserved in the opportunities in Henderson. What do you think, and how do you think we can fix that?
You're asking some detailed questions.
I asked the tough questions.
One of the things that I see is a problem, and you kind of hit on it a little bit, was from you don't have the training, you don't have access to the training to get the jobs in the first place. So one of the things that we have done and are doing, our education system here stinks. There's no other word for it. There's no other pretty way to describe it. Education system stinks. And it's worse in neighborhoods that have disinvestment. And so what we have done is create our own preschool system. One of the things that we have done, we have a fully accredited preschool to get kids in earlier, to get them the skills and learning, educational learning that they need, so that when they actually get into schools, they're prepared. And so that they don't start school already behind. We're working with Nevada State College to make sure we have that cohesiveness of learning through starting early and then going through the school system. We're working with various schools within Henderson to make sure that there is a continuity from a student when a student goes from grade school to middle school to high school, that they are, especially those kids with special needs of some kind, doesn't mean special needs, where they have have to have a plan in place, because there's a learning disability, but it can be any kind of special needs, abusive household, things like that.
I'm sorry, I'm breaking in. I want to kind of redirect your answer, because again, I'm a little different in the sense that that I don't. I'll put it this way: everybody likes to talk about education. My issue is, and I came back to it, equality of opportunity. We go back to education because it's the safe zone. I'm talking about the fact now there are contractors that look like me. There are people that are working and that have the abilities that look like me. We have a system in place where the opportunities, because I'm not just talking about jobs, I'm talking about businesses. I'm talking about the opportunity for Black-owned construction companies, the opportunity for workers that are Black. and Hispanic, but Black people are, we're here talking about have an opportunity to win the bids. There's a direction from the city that encourages not just talking about diversity when it comes to building the city, but demanding diversity when we build a city. Education is easy to talk about, but we're not here to talk about kids. We're talking about how do we make a system, the city, be more accountable to make sure that there is equity in the opportunities as this city grows. That's my question. I don't want to, and I have to apologize, but everybody wants to go to education and not talk about the real problem. And again, the real problem is systemic racism is really the good old boy system. It is designed so that certain people know what the development are. They have their people in place to do the development, and then other folks are locked out of the opportunity.
So for us at Henderson, we have very specific state guidelines under which we can do bids, right? So all of our bid process are blind bids. You submit they put out a request for proposal. Whoever wants to responds to those bids. They're sealed bids. They have nobody can contact them until the bids are open. They open the bids. They look at did they answer every question? Did they provide? Are they missing anything in their application? And who is the lowest responsive and responsible bidder? Those are the guidelines that we can go by per the state. And so whoever is the lowest responsive and responsible bidder, that's who gets the job. And it has nothing to do with anything else, because we can't even open the bid package until the official bid opening, when it's a very public thing. And the request for proposal is on a public forum in a public place where anybody who is qualified can apply for that job or for that particular contract. So if things need to change, it has to be at the state level first to change, to see maybe if there are bonus points that you get if you're a local business, if you're bonus points, if you're a minority owned business. So there's bonus points for whatever thing. It has to come from the state level first. And then that's what we would have to be added to those guidelines that we already have to abide by.
Okay, we'll talk some more on that again. And I thank you, Michelle. Again, I don't ask the easy questions. And again, I look for specific issues. We'll talk some more on that because I have some ideas and some thoughts. Because again, if you're going to speak diversity and inclusion, it is very important that we walk the talk and not just say we have blind bids. Because if you have a company that's $1 million company, or let's say that's $100 million company or $500 million company, and you have these other startup companies that are minorities, specifically Black companies, they never win the bids because the cost of operational costs cannot be dispersed across everybody. And so blind bids to me are just an excuse to keep business as usual. People have to have a commitment to change the system so that it is truly fair and not just a numbers game. Because if I have all the money, I will always have the lowest bid because I have the ability to do more because I have more. And if I have less, I never, and then you know what? I give up because I know I'll never win. So as you go forward and as you become mayor, I definitely want to talk to you about us opening the eyes and not having blinders on or saying it's public, but really coming up with a system that says, you know what? We need to reflect that the work and the opportunity that comes for our city is at least in line with our city as we attempt to make sure that there is opportunity for all. So we'll talk more. Like I said, I appreciate this, and this is just the one of many. Let's jump to social justice a little bit. I've lived here in Henderson, and I'm going to tell you, it's gotten better. but it still needs some ways to go. My sons grew up here. They many times got pulled over for driving while black, walking while black, doing a lot. And I have also been pulled over and been looked at as a perp before I'm looked at just a person. There have been big strides, but there's still more work to do. We also have to realize we all want safe communities. And one of the reasons I talk about equality of opportunity is if you want to have safe cities, then you have to have the opportunity for everyone involved to economically grow, because there's a direct correlation between economics and crime. And so tell me your opinions on crime, and also on the pilot, your opinions on how we continue to improve in our social justice so that we have a, I'm going to say, a city that embraces, and I always like the word smart on crime, but also respectful for all of the people that live in their community are treated with respect. Give me your thoughts. And again, I told you, I give hard questions, so I need for you to just give me your answers.
So again, there's some multiple answers here, but we just had a community survey that we just performed across the city. We had more than 900 people respond, and we had even response from all sectors of the city. They wanted to make sure that it was statistically valid. And we compare year over year, and it's broken down by public safety, education, a whole variety of things. But the public safety portion of that the community survey that we just did, and in fact, you can go back if you'd like and watch it on our last city council meeting. They were talking about the results of that public survey. Public safety, and specifically the police department, got the highest marks they've had ever in the entire history of us doing these surveys. And in fact, eons above the national average and the state average, and even our other local municipalities. They were far and away rated better. And I believe that's for a reason. Our police department has a very robust diversity and training program that they go through. We have multicolored police officers who are representative of our community. And so they are all trained to be respectful, to be cognizant of issues that are happening in the world and in their community, and to treat people with respect no matter what their situation is. I've been on ride-alongs with our police department, and I would pit them against any police department in the country. I was really surprised by the situations that they had to go into, for one. I mean, just things that you don't think about on that they have to deal with on a regular basis. But it didn't matter what situation they were in. They treated people with respect and compassion, no matter what. And that happens all the time. That's not to say they don't make mistakes. There's never been a problem, because they learn and grow. But I believe we have, like I said, a very robust training program that they put into action every day. And they have adopted a community policing program where the same officers are in smaller segments of our community, so that they get to know the neighbors in that community, and the neighbors get to know them. They do all kinds of things to make sure that people feel comfortable with the people who are serving and protecting them. I went at Christmas time to, in my district is some of the most diverse culturally in our city. And I went with them to various neighborhoods to do Christmas runs, where they provided presents for residents in certain areas, and got to know the police officers. They stop and play ball at the park with some of the kids. They do things on a regular basis that aren't necessarily police related, but it's more person related, so that they get to know the people that they're serving, so they have a better understanding of what they're facing every day and how to best approach things that happen and resolve them as quickly and appropriately as they possibly can.
Great. Is that Izzy? I saw Israel Rivera. Is that Izzy?
Yes.
Okay, I have on Izzy, Israel Rivera. He's actually working with me for the Hispanic side. We created an independent Hispanic group. Michelle Israel is the owner of 702 magazine and 702 television station. So he's on now. Okay, and great. And I want to come forth. I see improvement. I stated again, I've been here for 20 years. Understand, they used to follow my sons back from school because he drove a old school car. My sons usually got extra, they used to. So I believe it has gotten better. I will go and make that. And I think there's still more room for improvement.
Sure, there's
I
always
think
room for improvement.
I'm glad to see we're looking to diversify the police department, because there should never be an us against them. We believe, and the Black community is probably one of the staunchest believers of supporting safe neighborhoods. It's just how you go about creating this safe neighborhood is very important. And again, I think the message has gone out. I think we need to continue to work forward together, because we don't want to demonize the police. That's why I asked that question, but we do want to hold them accountable. And that's why when I ask the questions here, I ask them because we believe there's been improvement. We believe there's more work to do. And I tend to agree with you that we've seen vast improvements in the last couple of years, and we want to continue that way. Izzy, I'm going to give you a chance. Again, we've been asking questions about both social justice, and we've been talking about economics, basically equality of opportunity. Do you want to chime in? Is there a question you want to ask? Israel.
If he's speaking, he's muted.
Yeah, let me see.
Okay, sorry about that. There's any programs for the Hispanic communities that we can promote it in a radio station?
We have a community development department that works with various communities in our, and part of our community development department is in the neighborhood services. And so they work with various segments of our community. I don't know of any specific right off the top of my head, but we also partner with our local nonprofits to partner on projects too. So to find out what specific things they might have coming up, they would be people that we should talk to is Neighborhood Services Division of Community Development.
Fantastic. We just have an agreement with the local radio station is 98.1 Fiesta Radio, and we are having several radio shows. Maybe we'll be available in the few weeks in order to come to the show that will be available for you.
Potentially, yes. My calendar is kind of nuts right now, but if you give me enough notice, I can usually find a time that I can fit it in.
Okay, great. I'm gonna go back. Thank you. Yeah, Michelle, tell me, because I've been jumping around, obviously, and ask you some questions. And what would you say are the major roles of the mayor of Henderson? Kind of give us a quick synopsis.
So, mayor sets the tone for policy development in the city for how the city is going to move forward, and we have been extraordinarily fortunate in the city, in the mayors that we've had, especially in the recent past. They've had vision, and they've taken the city to the next level. When I told you I was born and raised here, when I was in high school, we used to get teased for living in Henderson, and people called it Hendertucky and made fun of us because there was a cloud that from Timet and some of the other things that kind of hung over Henderson, and it wasn't necessarily a safe community. We didn't have a lot of economic development. We didn't have a lot of jobs. People lived here and they worked in Las Vegas. And so we've been able to turn that around through visions of mayors and other councils to say, this is where we want to go. And so for me, setting that policy would include things that you would normally think of, like, diversifying our economy, which we have been doing for a very long time. We have a very healthy and a very robust economic development department who works with everyone who wants to come in, and even if it's just to say, I'm thinking about starting a business. How do I start it? What do I need to do? Do you know who I should go talk to? And they will walk them through, what they need to do. And even so far as helping them, we partner a lot with the Chamber of Commerce, and they have incubator space, and we allow them to work together to have that kind of baby step startup with the incubator space until they're set enough that they can go off on their own. So economic development, traffic is a huge issue that is happening, and looking at how in the future we can address some of these issues that are developing as a side result of growth that we're experiencing. Public safety is a huge issue, and keep maintaining our safest city designation, and what we need to do as a city to make sure that we're able to keep pace with our number of police that we have on staff with our growth to maintain that quality of life. There are a variety of different issues that need direction and need somebody to be able to pivot and see what's coming in the future, and what priorities need to be adjusted to make sure that we're maintaining that high quality of life. And so setting that policy, I think, is probably the most important thing that the mayor will do.
Okay, great. I'm going to veer off and ask you now. I'm going to ask you an educational question, more on the lines of right now. Obviously, Clark County is the largest, or one of the largest in the country, and obviously has dismal results. There's been a lot of discussions, from school choice to breaking up the Clark County system, and this has fraught with a lot of issues there. Give me your opinion, and it doesn't have to be I'm for and I'm against. How do you think that we, and when I look at Clark County, I'm not just looking at Henderson, because obviously if we broke it up and Henderson was by itself, just because of economics, the numbers are today much better than they are in some other areas. What do you think that we as a group of Nevadans can do to actually see improved education across the board?
I think we have to come together, because there, as you've said, there have been many years of people talking about it, talking about breaking it up. The legislature even passed some legislation, I think it was in 2016, that kind of tried to break it up without actually breaking it up. And that it's in bits and pieces. And we haven't had a coalition come together of cities, of parents, of teachers, and everybody else that is impacted or concerned with education, come together as a whole and say, these are the things that we expect. You are not meeting those expectations. Here's how we would like to see you move forward. So I've reached out to North Las Vegas and Las Vegas as the three largest cities in Southern Nevada to do that, to say, all right, clearly we have different needs, because North Las Vegas and Henderson have very, very different needs, but we also have some common issues that we are very unhappy with the school district. What can we agree on, and how can we move forward as a unit, as Southern Nevada cities, to our legislator to say, these are the things we need to see changed? And then bringing those community partners in as part of that coalition, once we have a foundation, to say, all right, legislature, you've dragged your feet long enough. Here's the solution, or at least here's the basis of getting a solution. So they've got to look at how to, if you break up the school district, which I do think needs to happen, it can't be just Henderson and just North Las Vegas and just Las Vegas for school districts. It has to be more equitably broken up.
I agree. I agree, because
Yeah.
much of the breakup is more about money than it is about education.
That's
Uh,
exactly right. They look at, oh, we have bonds, oh, we have assets, and how do we, it's very complicated. Well, it is complicated, but it doesn't matter how complicated it is. It's our kids. And so we need to figure it out. We have smart people who live in this valley that can figure out how to appropriately break up the bonds and make them so that the bondholders aren't at risk. We have people who can look at the assets and say, this is how we equitably distribute those assets and how we operate them. There are issues with teachers unions and how we can work with them to even though the school district gets broken up, we still need teachers. They're still all going to be employed. They're still all going to have a job. But I think it'll actually be better for the teachers to have more responsive administration, more autonomy in the classroom, and be able to have smaller class sizes and all those kinds of things. So we're working together right now. We're trying to get that set up. We've been working on it for a while. Henderson also has created a community education advisory board where we take 30% of our marijuana funds and 18% of our redevelopment funds. We put it into a pot, and through that board, we receive grant applications from Henderson schools, Henderson public schools. We do not grant them through the school district. We grant them directly to the schools, and we look at what they're asking for, what the benchmarks are, what the results are, how they perform, did they use the money appropriately, all those kinds of things. And we've granted millions of dollars to Henderson schools in all areas to address issues that the school district refuses to address.
okay.
We're also just created a Center for Excellence. We just approved a Center for Excellence where we're creating a job training opportunities for advanced manufacturing jobs so that people in our community have the opportunity to get we're bringing in Haas Automation. It's going to be 2,500 jobs that are created, and many more other advanced manufacturing jobs are coming. We want our residents to have the opportunity to get those jobs. And so we're creating the workforce center to train them to be able to do that. So we're approaching it from a wide variety, but I think until we come together as a whole and go to the legislature that way, it's not going to make a difference.
Okay. And yeah, we'll talk in depth on this because this is just a let's get to know you, and we definitely want to dig deeper. So I'm going to want this near and dear to my heart, and this goes back to opportunity and diversity. As I said, right now, Henderson's 6 to 8% African American, which is smaller, obviously, than even Las Vegas or North Las Vegas, etc. How, from a diversity aspect, are you willing to support diversity in the sense of making sure opportunity is available for all? And I say this in the sense that, many of us speak diversity. We love the word diversity, but when we look at the actions, they are not diverse, and the Black community as a whole has been the one who has been behind helping women, has been behind helping the Hispanic, has been a champion for the LGBT. We've been a champion for everyone. But when you look at what's happening, many times we celebrate diversity as business as usual. Will you commit if you're mayor, to make it a real plan or goal to make sure you have real diversity, not just in the people who work with you, but through the city, so that we can have more Black people attracted to the Henderson? Because again, it's about money, and if there is more opportunity, there will be more people that will actually be able to afford to live in this community. Because just as they do gentrification, while it eliminates the people that are there, is no good for the people here. And the same thing when I come to Henderson, if there's not a commitment of inclusion, then we're just a shrinking number on the Henderson books. So give me your thoughts there. Are you committed really to diversity from an economics opportunities, from, the governmental opportunities, to try to make sure that the city looks like the people.
So I would say actions speak louder than words, and word talk is cheap. I told you that the last 16 years of my career at the city, I worked in redevelopment areas, and those areas, I would venture to guess, have the largest diversity of population in the city of Henderson. And what I did through that work was work with those neighborhoods to bring in investment and opportunities to their neighborhoods that didn't otherwise exist. For example, in the Pittman area, they had a park there that was a very old park, had a boys and girls club in it that was very run down, and they had a little library that was also very run down. We thought we knew at the city, as a city employees, we thought we knew kind of an idea of what we needed to do in that community. But instead of just thinking we knew what was best, I made the decision to actually go out in the community, and we held numerous like open house meetings with the city to get or with the residents there to get their input on what amenities they would like to see in their neighborhood and what would suit them best. And they actually got to pick the amenities in the park, and we completely revamped. We were going to make them little pocket parks throughout the community so they have more variety, but they said, no, we don't want that. We would like our park redone, and this is what we'd like in the park. We got them exactly what they asked for, and they got to come in and help. We had a day where they got to come in and do a mural, so the kids in the neighborhood got to do the mural. And it was, I find that when you actually involve the people, you get greater buy-in and you get pride of ownership. And so that's one area. I also worked to bring in investment to make it easier. I created programs for those people who didn't otherwise have access to lending and things like that. We created programs for people who were first-time home or first-time business owners and things like that to come in and say, okay, this is what we want to do. This is where our experience is. We're trying to open this kind of business. And we created assistance programs that help them achieve that goal. These are very depressed areas, or at least started out as very depressed areas with lots of boarded up businesses, a real lack of just general investment in the area. And, it's like the broken window syndrome. You get one broken window and then you get more and more and more. And I actually was able to bring those business owners in and help them get started and then succeed in their businesses. Sometimes it was through the incubator. Sometimes they didn't need an incubator, and they got to, they had enough experience that they were able to actually start out on their own right away. But all of those, the vast majority of my experience is helping our more diverse community come up to the same level and have the same amenities, the same opportunities, all those kinds of things as the newer areas of our city where, there was less diversity. Although that's changing now too. It's becoming a little bit more diverse because the city has been very, in fact, I think we just got an award for our diversity and inclusion programs because we have made a very concerted effort to at least provide the opportunity for people to participate in our community, to be a member of our community, and to have the same experiences as others in the community.
Great. Well, again, we'll talk some more. This is the first one, and now you got a chance to beat me and know. And I agree, it's great to build communities, but again, it's funny. The word gentrification is a positive and a negative because, and I say this, we love awards, but if one community is building the depressed community, they're not building it for the community that's there. They're building it for the new community. And that's why I press people to not just look at the aspect of we built something in there, but did we build it with people that inherently live in the community for the most part, or will live in the community, and not just we built it to get it better so that the property property values go up, so these people leave, and it really hasn't helped them. So I have another, this will be my last one, and I appreciate it, and we'll talk more on it. Homelessness. Obviously, most of the homelessness is in Las Vegas because it's either in Las Vegas, or if it's in a place like Henderson, it's not as obvious. But as we see the price of everything going up, we're going to see homelessness even in Henderson. What's your thought on addressing that issue, because it is coming?
It's here. It's not coming. It's here. We have a homeless, for us, again, you're right. You know, Las Vegas has a much bigger problem, but for Henderson, we have more of a homeless problem than we have ever seen ever in our history. And we have immediately, once we started seeing this, we got together a joint task force that we actually go out into the homeless communities and provide them information on assistance and housing and, you know, programs that if they're needed and things like that. We've also until just barely, we just approved this. Henderson didn't have any facilities for homeless, you know, to take homeless people to if we found them in a situation that was, you know, if it's too hot outside, too cold outside, we didn't have the facilities to take them. We've just created an agreement with Las Vegas for their service, so that we can use their services so that we have a location to take them. And we've been very successful at rehousing people and getting them into rehabilitation programs if they so desire. Our problem is with the people who refuse services, and there are a lot of them, and many of them we just did a big effort where we had one quite large group of homeless people that were causing quite a bit of problem in a neighborhood, because they were bullying. They were at a park and they were bullying the kids, they were bullying the parents, they were creating problems that shouldn't have been there. And what we found, and this park happens to be right next door to an elementary school. And what we found, we got almost all of them housed. We got them services, we got them housed, we got them, you know, to at least understand what assistance was available to them. But the people who refused the services, we found that their police records were so horrible that they weren't allowed into any of the housing options that we had available to them. And they were for child molestation and, you know, things against children. And here they are right in our parks and right next to our an elementary school. So it's a humongous problem. I wouldn't want my grandchildren there. I wouldn't want somebody else's children there. And so we have developed and are developing more, especially regulations in our parks for those people who refuse services and who refuse to be a good neighbor and who refuse to be respectful of their environment. The other people we work with very, very, very well. Our police officers are trained on how to help homeless people with their situation, whatever it may be, how to respectfully address their you know, whatever they might own that's with them and how their property, things like that. But it's the people who are granted in the minority, but that refuse services and refuse to be a good citizen and refuse to work with us, that we have a real difficulty with, and we're starting to just really crack down on them because it's not appropriate for them to be around our children.
Okay. And we'll talk again, because I thank you. You took an hour, you took the tough questions, and this is the beginning. Hopefully, if you get some time, I know you may have some other engagements. We're going to be out at Shanita's.
Yep.
We'll be out at Kanita's here, and hopefully you will come by and hang out with us for a minute. But this is the beginning of the trail. I know at this point you do not have a person that is running against you. Is that correct? Yep.
That's
so
correct.
that's good. But we like to talk to you whether you have someone running against you or not, because again, 40%, and this is something you meant, 40% of all the homeless are African American. Did you know that?
And I didn't.
Yes, and many of them are not homeless because of mental. We like to talk about the people with the mental problems, but many of it is economics. And as we continue to have the housing drive that we see
Yep.
today, we're going to see an increase of homeless people. And we can try to put regulations down. We can try to do some other things. But the truth of the matter is, until we have more of a balanced economy and have more economic opportunity for all, we're going to become a society of the haves and have-nots. And living here, I believe Henderson should be a city of the have-alls, and where everyone has the opportunity to grow, prosper, and it is not just a city for the elite. Israel, we're going to close this. You got anything you want to say? Because we're going to meet in the future. Israel, you got anything you want to say as we close this out?
Oh, no, thank you. I'm all right. The question I have for a housing, she answered it perfectly. Thank you.
Okay. Well, I thank you again, Michelle. You answered my phone. You took my tough questions. I would like to wish you success as you go forward, and hopefully we will get to, this is the first of a couple of conversations. Thank you again.
And like I said, I won't be able to come Saturday night because I already committed to it, to another group, but I look forward to whatever else you might have in the future.
Sounds
Thank you.
good.
Nice to
All
meet
right,
you.
thank you. It was very nice to meet you.
All right. All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.